episode 132 of the Michael Anthony Show. And with Manchester United obviously been close to the heart of this show and many of the listeners to this show, no better man to be talking to than Captain Marvel, Mr. Bryan Robson. How are you?
Hi, mate. Yeah,
I find
really
it,
good, thanks.
just make sure to put it a bit closer because the fucking sound on them isn't great. I find it strange that obviously it was years ago, but they're the same feet that scored in FA Cup finals. You have the same bones and the same skin as the man who was once the best midfielder in English football, and sitting here, overweight, curly-headed, I have to admit that I do feel highly inferior to you.
I don't know about that. My bones and all that, I think some of them are still there, but some of them are a bit creaky.
What is it like, though, to be an icon? That level of kind of status you achieved in the 80s and early 90s at Manchester United, working class fans idolising a human being, Captain Marvel. Do you think that's gone from football? They show up to the terraces, they stand and they sing, and it's like they're filling a void. And they pick characters like you, characters like George Best, who become their superheroes, so to speak. Why do you think it means so much to people? Because it is just kicking a ball into a net, isn't it?
No, I think, you know, if you look at people, I'd like to think that people look at my career and, you know, the teams that I played for, whether it was England, Man United, West Brom, Middlesbrough, I just give everything in a match. And, you know, if people appreciate that and they say, well, that's the way I would like to play the game, the way Bryan Robson did, then that's great. But, you know, when you say hero worship, you don't really get that, you know, as a person, because, you know, I'm just the same as everybody else.
But does it affect you when you know that many people idolise you? Or do you just crack on with your job?
For me, you just crack on. You know, I enjoy my life. People are really friendly and courteous towards me. It's not very often throughout my career and even now that people are like dickheads towards you, and that normally people are really polite and courteous towards you.
You know the reputation you have amongst Reds, that being, it's nearly Steven Gerrard-esque, because it was a period of underachievement. Not underachievement, but you were the biggest fish in a pond.
We were close.
Yeah, but we didn't win the league when you were in your peak. We won the league under the Fergie years when you were no longer the Bryan Robson that was Bryan Robson. Do you wish that you were part of a golden era, like the Ferguson one, around the likes of Beckham and Giggs and all that? Are you glad that you represented United surviving in the 80s, the rebuild from the relegation in the 70s, the 3 FA Cups?
Yeah, look...
Would you change it?
You know, I enjoyed the 80s, the winning the FA Cups, that sort of thing, and then being part of the rebuilding process that Sir Alex went through. But I did mention it to my dad once, why couldn't you kept it in your pants for maybe another 10 years and I would have won a hell of a lot more. Yeah. But that wasn't the case. But no, I mean, no regrets or anything like that. I enjoyed my career at United. And then, you know, even though I was coming towards the end of my career, I still felt a big part of winning the title in 92, 93, and then being a big part of winning the double in, you know, 93, 94.
But when it's all said and done, like, you know, we talk about Shearer and what a player he was, and he could have won more if he went to United. Or the fact that a player like you, who was at one point probably the best central midfield player in the world, but you played at a United team and you dragged them to trophies. When you retire, do trophies matter, or is it just what your own career was? Because, you know, we talk about Letitia, the Shearers.
Oh, look,
Nicky Butt's more decorated than you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Nicky deserves, you know, whatever.
But in terms of what a player you were.
For me, you just a little bit unfortunate that you don't get into a squad of players like the class. Well, you know, everybody says the class of 92, but remember there was some fantastic players around the class of 92. Yeah. So the young lads like the Nevs and Butty and Becks, Scholesy and that, Giggsy, when they came through, Sir Alex did add class players to them to win things, you know. Like, I look back, Yap, Stam, what a player. And then you had Vidic and Ferdinand and Rooney, people like that. So he was always adding to that. I mean, like, for me, I look back and, you know, from 91 through to 94 when I left the club. I mean, for me, those set of lads were brilliant lads, you know, and they achieved a lot. And so I've got to say that I'm still quite happy. But, yeah, I mean, Alan Shearer, I've been on holiday, not with him, but met him on holiday in Portugal, had a few drinks with him on the beach and that sort of thing. And he says, no regrets of not joining United. And I go, Al, you would have had about 18 titles if you joined. You know, and Gaza was the same when he went to Tottenham. You know, I always say to Gaz, you should have joined United, not because of Sir Alex's discipline with him. What I always said to Gaz, he would have been part of that 92, even though he was a bit older. Yeah. But all them lot would have got a hold of him and said, Gaz, you can't do that, you can't do this. You're playing for Man United.
Would you rather have you or Gaz in your team if you were a gaffer?
Me.
Would you? Yeah.
No, I've always said, like, Gaz is probably the best player I've played with. You know, in his peak from 90, 96, in between that time, he was vying with Maradona, who was the best player in the world.
If he had your mentality, he would have been a Ballon d'Or winner.
Definitely, yeah. You know, he was that good.
Is it weird to see when you look back at your day and all the boys and you were part of the kind of the architecture of Manchester and you would have known fans and everybody loved the likes of you, the likes of Paul McGrath? Do you look at players now, it's a different sport. They don't know the fans anymore. There's no relatability. Boozing's gone. Boozing's an essential part of footballing bonding, isn't it? Football's a microcosm of war, warriors, years ago. You go into battle together, you go to the pub after, like when they were in Rome, or like they were at the Battle of Hastings. They went and they drank whatever they could get given to them, and they shagged a load of women who were around them, and they had fun, and they bonded over it. Now they're robots and they're on social media. Are you glad you're not a footballer nowadays?
Yeah, if I had the time now or the time in my days, I'd still pick.
Even if you could get paid to, like, what would Bryan Robson have been on? 300 grand a week if he was at United?
I always said when I left West Brom, it wasn't particularly the money. West Brom tried to stop me from signing for United because they said they'll match whatever Man United are offering me. But I said to them that it wasn't that I wanted to win things in my career. And I was 24 at that time. I got into the England team and I wanted to win things. So it wasn't particularly the money because I knew I'd make decent money being a Man United player anyway and being in the England team. So it gave me a good life. Anyway, it has given me a good life.
Now they're making money that they'll never have to lift a finger again once they retire. They just tweet and they get $100 grand.
My wife always says to me now and again, like, you know, Brian, just think you would have been on 500 grand a week now. Yeah. And I go, yeah, you'd really enjoy spending that, wouldn't you?
So you'd still go for back in the day of bonding and cultural relevance?
Yeah, I would.
And atmosphere?
I mean, I think, yeah, you know, social media's got a lot to answer for. It's very good in certain aspects, but it's really bad in others.
It's just ruined the world, and it's ruined football.
It's ruined the reputation of football because people say you don't get characters anymore. Yeah. Well, you don't get characters because they get hammered.
But back in your day, Harry Maguire, right?
Harry's a good player.
Wouldn't have gotten to the FA Cup final team of 85 or 83. And he's one of the most expensive players in the world.
No, I tell you what, Harry Maguire is a better player than what people are giving him credit for.
Is he better than Kevin Moore?
Yeah, I think he probably is slightly better player than Kev.
In what way?
Harry's decent on the ball, decent in the air. The one thing, you know, he lacks a little bit of pace. That's the one thing. If you could give him a fair bit of pace, he's a decent player. Look, I like the lad.
How would you do Maguire v McGrath? Who would you have there?
I know McGrath. I'm not sure, but I think even it might have been me who started off calling him the Rolls Royce.
That started the Rolls Royce centre half kind of term.
Paul was unbelievable. I mean,
was he as good as Ferdinand?
Yeah,
he was better. You're saying?
Yeah, I think he probably was.
And without the gargle, we're talking the best. We're talking Baresi. Without the
No,
gargle.
he was useless at drinking. That's why we always had to put him, me and Norm and Gordon McQueen, and Kevin Moran, by the way, who never gets a mention. We used to have to put him in a taxi and get him home.
So was he a lightweight as opposed to, like, what's the difference between an alcoholic and someone who loves a gargle? As somebody who's been involved in the football boozing scene, what's the difference between Georgie Best and you?
That
He can't stop.
You can't stop, and you get up next morning and you want to go on it again, and you drink spirits and everything and that. So somewhere like myself and Whiteside, we always and McQueen, we used to sort of drink a beer and drink a white wine. We'd never hit a bottle of vodka and all that sort of thing, which the big man did, and then Gaza when he's had his problems.
Yeah.
George, I mean, when I first came to United, I went out with George a few times for a drink. He'd be on the vodka at 12 o'clock, lunchtime sort of thing. And you go,
You went on the piss with Georgie Best, literally.
Yeah, a few times.
And did the women flock around him in the boozers?
No, because my missus and his missus were there at the time.
Georgie Best, though, in terms of talent, not even worth talking about. The most stupidly gifted footballer we've ever even heard of.
Yeah, Gaza and him are just naturally gifted. You know, the things that they could do with a football, the balance that they had when they were taking people on and dribbling past them. They were just fantastic players, the two of them. And for me, I always put George up there as one of the best players ever in the world.
That drinking scene of the United of the 80s, you, Whiteside, McGrath, is it overrated because Ferguson's talked about the clean out and now it's become a story, or was it actually key to the bonding of Manchester United in the 1980s? How important was having a drink? Because it makes you flesh out issues, doesn't it? It makes you say shit you wouldn't say.
Yeah, it does, but it's overrated the way the media said, because the media sort of built it up as if we did it like 2-3 times
as
a
if
week.
Fergie walked into Moe's Tavern and turned it into a football club.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, we do that. Maybe it's 4 times in the season where we'd all go out together, have a good drink, where it was well away from a football match.
Was it not every weekend?
No.
You wouldn't go out every weekend, have 20 beers, take the hangover and crack on the train on the Monday?
No, not every week.
Well, do you get hungover?
No, I don't.
My generation complain a lot, though, about things like anxiety, things like hangovers. You boys from Northern England who used to break your leg 4 times and still play, do you laugh at the likes of us? Do you think the world's gone soft?
I think sometimes it's soft when you show that you're hungover, and then sometimes you get man flu, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And no, that's not on my agenda.
Do you just say hair of the dog, or do you say just English breakfast and crack on?
Hair of the dog.
He couldn't spot danger. He didn't see danger.
You have 4 or 5 the next day.
Well, just have a couple and it just gets you going again.
Do you still drink a lot?
I don't drink as much as what I used to, but I still like a good drink, but I'm a lot more sensible about it because of my age. You just calm down a bit when you get older and you've got grandkids. Now and again, I still meet up with Big Norm. I mean, only last weekend we did a dinner together at Warrington Rugby Club. It was a lunch. We had a lunch, but we kicked on till 11 o'clock at night, and that. So you still have your moments.
Without the gargle, that side of Wilkins, Robson, Whiteside, McGrath, league title. If Ron Atkinson come in and go just ahead of his time, goes, we do not drink, would you guys have been champions of England?
No, because I look at when I was playing with England, I went out with the Liverpool lads, and Phil Thompson, Phil Neal, Alan Kennedy, Terry McDermott, all those lads could drink as much as the United lads, and the Liverpool lads used to go out and do exactly the same. But they were winning titles, so they never really got a mention.
Was it a mentality thing? Because Liverpool were so dominant and they'd won so many in the years leading up. Why every time? Like, there was good seasons under Atkinson. You're in title races and you're dropping off. Is it a mentality thing, or what was it that Ferguson made the difference to Atkinson? Because United were competitive in your day.
No, I think the squad, the depth of the squad, I didn't think under Ron it was as good as under Sir Alex. So as soon as we got it, I mean, like the year 85 when we got off to such a great start, won the first 10 games.
10 games, losing it from there is a fucking joke.
John Gidman broke his leg, then Strack dislocated his shoulder and was out for a long time at West Brom. I ripped my hamstring and was out for 8 weeks against Turkey at Wembley. Big Paul had a big problem with his knee again, and he was out for months. And so you take 4 players like that out of that team, and it's going to make a big difference. And I just think that the people that Ron had to come in and replace those players, just weren't quite good enough to continue that run and let us go on to win the title.
How did you used to return from injury so quickly? It's just been hard. Did you used to play through pain?
Yeah, sometimes you did, because you could see that was an important game, and you maybe is not 100% fit, but you'd want to play it unless if it's a muscle tear or anything like that. You can't come back. But if you've maybe twisted your ankle a bit, or you've got a really bad, bruise on your bones, you play when you feel uncomfortable, but you get through it.
If you look at the start of your managerial career, after you leave United as one of the greatest midfielders the English game has ever seen, 90 England caps in your day, by the way, it's just stupid. 26 goals from midfield, had everything as a player. You go into management, 2 promotions, 3 major finals with Borough. We talk about Poch getting the United job, and we talk about his achievements at Southampton, and I'm behind Poch. I think he's a top gaffer. But if we look at your starting management, 3 major finals, 1 FA Cup, 2 League Cup finals, and 2 promotions. That's Mourinho shit. That's Arrigo Sacchi stuff. That's your first manager job. You leave in 01. Why aren't you a manager?
No, I really enjoyed my role as a manager. But after so many years where you don't feel as if you're going to get a top job, it sort of disheartens you, because I know from working with England under Terry Venables, I knew I could work with top players, and that's what I wanted.
Do you reckon you're in a similar boat to Roy Keane, that the reason you're not at the top table of management now is because you can't deal with poor players? They frustrate you too much.
No, it's not that I can't deal with it. I just, after 12 years, I don't want the hassle of doing the media every day, getting stick because you haven't got the wage bill to bring in decent players.
Why did you take that break after Borough? Surely you were unbelievably sought after. You got to 3 major finals and 2 promotions with Middlesbrough Football Club.
No, I wasn't really sought after. I took the Bradford job, for a year because I wasn't getting offered anything else.
How?
Then West Brom, I took the West Brom job when they were bottom of the league, and that's why we got
the Great Escape.
The Great Escape. So those were the type of jobs in the Championship I was getting offered. But
why do you think you weren't getting the top jobs if that was your record at Borough?
Well, because of the media. Because I can always remember when I first went into Borough, the media was saying, Sir Bobby Charlton, Bobby Moore, they never made it.
That was a thing. Yeah, that was a thing.
And so they were saying that before I'd even got into the job.
That was the narrative back then, that English greats aren't going to translate into great managers. Yeah. It still mildly exists today, but it's calmed down. That's why we see Lampard get these opportunities. That went over 20 years, though.
Yeah. So when I went into Borough, like you say, I mean, the great thing for me was that we get promoted first season, and then Steve Gibson, because of the new stadium, and we got 30,000 sell-out crowds every week, all of a sudden he'd give me some money, and so I could bring people like Juninho, Ravanelli, Emerson in.
Ravanelli was an unbelievable signing.
But then that's a little bit like what you were saying about the 85. It was a disgrace losing out on the on the title when we'd won our first 10 games. But Borough at that time was a bit like United at that time, as far as I see it. The first 11 players that I played at Borough were top draw.
Yeah.
And that's why we got the 2 cup finals in the 1 year. Unfortunately got deducted 3 points, which for me is still a disgrace.
That's why you went down.
Yeah. Because if I hadn't have gone down, I could have kept those players and added to them.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what Steve Gibson believed in as well. But the 3 foreign lads, they wanted to leave because they wanted to get into the national team, and they're saying playing in the championship, that was going to hinder that. So that's why I always say probably my best season, not the 2 cup finals and getting relegated. That year when we got relegated,
the promotion,
I brought Andy Townsend, Paul Merson. They came in, Neil Madison, to replace the 3 lads who I lost, and we get promoted and we go to a cup final. That performance,
season, as a second tier team to get to a League Cup finals.
Yeah, that was brilliant achievement by the players.
Did you outright reject the England job? Were you offered it?
Yeah, I mean,
because you had too much respect for the position. You're looking at Alf Ramsey, you're looking at Bobby Robson, you're looking at Terry Venables gone before you, and you're saying, I don't have the experience, want to learn at club level. But having seen someone like Southgate do the opposite and take the job, do you wish you just fucking went with it? Because Glenn Hoddle didn't have much experience.
Well, that's
he was a player gaffer too.
Yeah, and Glenn took it at that time.
Yeah.
But that's why I've said, in the past, that that's probably my worst decision, because Jimmy Armfield came to my house, interviewed me, said, look, I'm going to recommend, and I just said, no, Jim, I've only had 2 years in management. I want a lot more experience if I'm going to be England manager.
But you had it. You could have become England manager for the 98 World Cup.
That's the only decision. When I look back, I should have said yes.
How close were you to the Ireland job when McCarthy got sacked? And that would mean a lot to our listeners, because Brian Kerr came in and you're one of the names linked with it. Did you meet with, who'd you meet? Would you meet with John Delaney?
Delaney, yeah.
What'd you make of John Delaney?
And yeah, he was a good guy. And you
know about his reputation in Ireland.
Yeah.
Basically a joke character.
Yeah. But I met him and a couple of the board from the Irish FA. So I met them.
We call it the FAI. Us Republican bastards, we're quite strict on that. There's no FA.
FAI. So, yeah, I met them, and Sir Alex actually phoned me, and he said, by the way, he says, I think you've got the job. And so I was gobsmacked a couple of days later when it came out that Brian Kerr had got it. But, yeah, I mean, at that time, I was really interested because I could see what the Irish squad was at that time, and there was some really good young players coming through at that stage.
Would Sir Alex be involved in that? Would he be throwing his weight around? Because he's the most powerful guy in football. Would he be ringing the FA going, yeah, Robo needs a job?
No, I don't think he'd actually phone them. I think somebody maybe told Sir Alex, but I think what they would have done, John Delaney especially, probably would have phoned Sir Alex and said, look, I'm thinking of Bryan Robson. What do you think? And I think then the boss would tell his opinion. But I mean, I went down to Roy Keane's house and I had a word with Keaney, and I was saying, look, if I get this job, will you come back into the squad?
Yeah.
And so me and Roy, he said, look, Brian, he says, if you get it, I'll think about it, and I'll seriously think about it. So I had that conversation with Roy because I thought I had a real chance of getting a job, but unfortunately it didn't happen.
That would have been an unbelievable time post kind of Borough to come back in and manage the Irish national team, because Northern England people, they resonate with Irish society. It would have been like Jackie Charlton too.
I was going to say Jack did a great job.
You could still be there now nearly. And then Kerr goes in, he has a tough draw because they lost the first 2 games of the group, and then he goes in, he doesn't get there, then he doesn't qualify for and then fucking Steve Staunton comes in. Did you apply again after Kerr got sacked?
No.
Why?
Once bitten, twice shy.
In terms of current United, are you an ambassador for Manchester United now?
Yeah, I mean, my role is to work with the sponsors, do that type of thing, MUTV, which I really enjoy.
So you're not really allowed fully comment on the way the club's ran?
No. No decisions.
So
like that.
your real opinion's impossible to kind of tell to the listeners. Obviously you're employed with the club. There's nothing you can say.
Look, at anybody at the football club, whether it's on the players'
Do you think the
staff,
club was ran right?
Yes, business-wise.
From a football point of view? No.
Very good. Football point of view, I think we maybe could have sort of looked at maybe a little bit more help than what we actually have done.
I think, and this isn't you saying it, this is me saying it to the listeners, I think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was actually set up, and I feel bad for him.
Look, I
think he was a puppet. I think he was a puppet, and I think they used him to appease the fans so they couldn't get criticised for another bad managerial appointment, and they put a guy into a role who didn't have the capability to do it, and I feel bad for Ole. I
think from where the club was when Ole joined, I think he did a fairly good job at building the squad up.
But he has less points per game than Mourinho. He has less trophies. Like, did we really improve? I know we have a better squad, but that's just money, isn't it?
The atmosphere around the training ground and everything improved.
Not based on performances,
so that's good.
Brian,
but
look at that Watford performance. What would you have done if you were in midfield? What would you have done if you were in midfield and you saw Victor Lindelof put his hands away? You would have punched the shit out of him.
Look, that's what I'm saying. Sort of like the last 2 years, I thought we were building the right way. I mean, the semi-finals that we got beat in. Last year, getting to the Europa final,
That's
unfortunately,
Manchester United game, Brian.
Finishing second in the league, and then you get Sancho, Ronaldo, Varane, and you're thinking, whoa, we've got a real chance this season. Now all of a sudden, you see from Leicester game up to...
I think a lot of us would have known it from the start of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer having the job, and I think a lot of great football men would have known the same thing. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Molde, Cardiff, tactically and from a man management point of view, he hasn't shown anything to suggest he deserved the Manchester United job. And when you sack someone like Mourinho and the club's so viral on Twitter and Facebook and everyone's criticising Woodward and Richard Arnold and these guys, the best bet is put in a hero. Put in a guy who put the ball in the Germans' net, who no one's going to criticise, so you can take the pressure off yourself. So you can make sure that everyone thinks that you care about the fans, but knowing that you don't have a guy who's right for the job. And the reason Mourinho was sacked, I believe, is because I think Jose Mourinho, as much as you had a tiff at Mourinho in that Chelsea-West Brom game years ago, he's an arrogant fucker. And he's handsome, and he's annoying, and he's brilliant. But he's very arrogant, and he's very dislikable in certain ways. But he's a top football manager. And he wanted more. That. He wanted more from United in the summer of 2018, and they didn't back him. The board didn't back him because he was anti... For example, Paul Pogba's been at the club 5 years. He was bought for a huge fee. We all say he's the best midfielder in the world. He's an insult to Remy Moses. Based on performance. What has Pogba done in the United shirt that suggests he's better than Jordi Cruyff? Nothing.
No,
he hasn't performed in 5 years, Brian. You know that, Captain.
That's you talking there, not me.
I know it's me, but that's my... I don't think Paul Pogba is... He is a great player talent-wise, but with the agent he currently has, who Ferguson has called a shithouse in a meeting with Sale rugby players, who Ferguson got rid of because he was clearly quite aware of the danger this guy presented with his agent. He's someone who the club shouldn't have, and it's all name, it's all social media. What has he done on the pitch to justify still playing? Nothing. And Mourinho dropped him. Mourinho was anti the commercialisation ahead of on-field achievement, and he stood up to the board and we fucked them out. So they got in Ollie, and they could control him, and it was brilliant.
But the thing is, though, that you're pro Mourinho.
I'm not pro Mourinho. I'm pro football ahead of commercial ideas for the fan. For us winning trophies, I don't think Mourinho got sacked because performances or he lost the dressing room. I think before that, the summer of 18, the board decided he's a threat to us, and he wants to win trophies ahead of us selling out stadiums in Asia and ahead of us having the most followed tweets in the world. And that's the problem with Manchester United. It isn't ran from a football point of view. And it's sad that the likes of you, and you look at the class of 92, and even look at people like Fergie, we've no control over it. The minute we won the treble, United became the first business in football, and the fans will never have control. We have accountants and bankers making decisions at a club, and we watch people like Liverpool lift trophies over our head. When we were in a position of winning 13 leagues before they'd won their last one, and they're more likely to win their next before we win another one, and they've won one since we've won one. It's from a fan point of view, it's very hard to take.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, I'm a fan.
Of United or Newcastle?
Of United. You know, and whoa, the last sort of 6 weeks has been a hard watch. You know, so that's why I think everybody knew, and even Ollie knew, something had to be changed. But you know,
they don't care
the
though.
Players, I was going to say it. The players' attitude's got to change, because just going back to the Watford game, I mean, bouncing balls and just endeavour was not there.
They're clearly not trying on purpose. You watch that game as an expert.
Any player,
but you watch the game as an expert. Yeah, but you're telling me when you watch that game that they're putting it in, that they're putting their body on the line, or they're just disillusioned with what they're being told.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't put the body on the line, because nobody won a 50-50 ball.
Exactly.
Nobody won a bouncing ball.
And that's not trying, though, isn't it? That's not trying.
Yeah, well, say I just can't see where players don't or being accused of that, because I just think every footballer, when you go out on the pitch, you try your best and you want to win every game that you play.
But this generation know the power they have. They have an unbelievable amount of power, and they can shift off responsibility and shift off blame onto a management team like they did with Mourinho and like they've now done with Solskjaer. And they say, I'm not going to pick up my man off a corner, and it means I have a new boss. And if I have a new boss, I can start again. Maguire's under the microscope. Everyone going, he's not a Man United player, but now he's a new gaffer. He starts again.
No, well, I disagree with everybody on that one. You know, Harry's had sort of a bad couple of games, and everybody's picking him up on it. I think he's a top centre-half, and so I'll argue all day with that.
What do you make of the return of Ronaldo?
Yeah, I thought it looked an obvious one. You know, he's still a great player. You know, you were hoping that the young boys would take things off the training ground of what he does, how he prepares himself, and just take the plus points out of Ronaldo. And he's done his job. He's scored goals, you know, really important goals, great goals. And that's so he's done his job. It's the other boys who haven't done the job.
But is it weird to work in a business in which so many people have an opinion on, because you work on TV in front of everybody once a week? For example, like if you're an accountant, a banker, a lawyer, a doctor, you're responsible for your own career, but you're now answerable to things you were associated with years after you've been involved.
You know, as a player or as a manager, you're always scrutinised. That's always going to be the case.
But this one's so obvious, isn't it? Like you scrutinise yourself fairly. You didn't take the England job because you didn't think you had the experience. Even 30 years ago, you guys were up for the media abuse to an extent, because in ways it was fair. Although it was sensationalist, it was fair. But now we're looking at Fergie leaves a team of world-class players, win the league by 11 points. We haven't been in a title race since. Quite clearly, the club has been misran to an unprecedented extent. From an on-pitch point of view, it's probably the greatest mismanagement of a sports team, including America, NBA, NFL, all that stuff, in the history of sport.
I think the one thing when you look back is people didn't realise how good Sir Alex and how good David Gill was.
But in terms of what we spend now, though, we've the highest wages in world sport.
I just think that their vast experience could have been used that little bit better around the club.
But this is just stupid. Because with that level of quality you're talking about, Varane, Fernandes, Ronaldo, Shaw, Greenwood, that's just giving them a kick up the arse. You can beat Watford. You can beat Villa and Everton at home. You don't need Pep Guardiola or Sir Alex Ferguson or Brian Clough.
No, Michael, we were talking earlier. How can those players go what was it, 30 Premier League games without getting beat away from home, and then go and put a performance on like that against Watford.
If you look at the context, though, there's penalties played a huge role in that. Fortunate decisions and penalties that made it 1-0. Penalties
otherwise
that
it could have been
deadlock.
4.
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of games, Solskjaer got very fortunate with decisions, and football is a lot about luck, and he was on the right side of it throughout a lot of his United career. Also, is an away day an away day? You tell me, because I've never played a professional football game. Without a crowd, is it?
Yeah, true.
Is it an away day?
No, that's right. I mean, people were scoring against us in the first half, and we kept coming back in the second half.
Exactly, because it was a training game.
Yeah, you don't do that.
Not when Goodison Park's telling you you're a prick.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Well, it's just the atmosphere which keeps the home team going, and it gives them something to play for.
If you could make a prediction on the next 5 years of Manchester United, are we going to be back competitive in semi-finals of the European Cup? Are we going to be winning leagues?
We should be, because you look at the money that we've spent on players, the money that we pay in wages. So what we have to do now is, Michael's in charge, and so...
No, but we're not saying that. He's not in charge. He's standing in.
Yeah, well, that's what caretaker managers always do. He's standing in, and hopefully he can get some good results to at least keep us in the Champions
Hopefully he's
League.
not there for more than 2 games.
But what... Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. What the club have to do is, whether the owners and the directors, whoever they want advice from, and that, they've got to get a plan, right? And they've got to get the right man in, who hopefully can have longevity within the job. Because it's like you're saying, since Sir Alex, it was an unbelievable hard task to follow. Ollie's been our longest-serving manager since Alex. So, but he hasn't won anything. And so this is what we need now. We need somebody who's got the experience, and...
You see, you've done your bit.
Hopefully,
you've lifted the FA Cup numerous times, 3 times, most ever. You have a scar over your eyebrow. You're Bryan Robson, you're Captain Marvel. You'll die a happy man. But for some of us, the club is over. We have no control. As long as we have owners who do not know or give a shit about Manchester United winning a league, none of this is even really worth discussing. If you think about the amount of wasted media on topics like Manchester United, when none of us have control because we've non-footballing men making decisions. If you're given the biggest wage budget and you're given the biggest transfer budget in the world,
yeah, you should
Stuart
be successful.
McCall will get you a trophy and a top 4 finish. That's not an achievement.
Well, he can fall off a car. That's the funniest thing I've ever seen in football.
The
that
Bradford video. But you know what I mean, Skipper? It's quite simple. We're overcomplicating issues here. Well, if we were talking about the New York Yankees and I had a New York accent now and you were fucking Babe Ruth or Derek Jeter, we're speaking facts here. The club is being ran disgracefully. Why can't we throw our voices in? Why can't we just start? Come on, we'll get it back. They'll start giving football men the positions they deserve. Bryan Robson thinks Manchester United's footballing running disgrace. Can we just quote that? We need it.
No, you can't. Listen, I'm not going to sit on the fence, because when I was at West Brom, I used to plead with the chairman, give me a bigger wage structure so that I don't have to keep fighting relegation. You give me a bigger wage structure, and hopefully I can get you into the middle of the table. But then it's up to me, because you've given me a far bigger structure to work with to bring better players in. So when you're working at Manchester United as manager, and whoever you're working with, your chief exec, whatever, or your director of football, whatever it is in football now, if I'm on the biggest in the league as a wage structure, and I've spent more money than anybody else, whoa. If I don't win something, I'm going to hold my hands up and go,
why did they keep Solskjaer in that job for so long when they knew he couldn't do it?
Because Ollie was a little bit unfortunate in some of the games. Not really unfortunate. We just didn't perform, and we maybe should have been a little bit better.
But Ollie isn't top manager.
Seville, when we got beat in the
Of
semi-final.
the Europa League, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we should have won that game.
Yeah, but we're talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Why was he given so much time?
Because he was very close to winning something.
No,
I mean,
I
last
don't think
year,
any of us thought that.
Villarreal, I mean,
Winning.
really, Man United should win that game.
Yeah, but I think Solskjaer was kept in there because there was no problem for the owners. You had a sector of fans backing him, and then you had a sector of people saying Ole out who were accused of not being true Reds, accused of not loving a legend, and they could sit on the fence and not be responsible for their decision to give a guy.
I think
who
90%.
You've a
of the
better
fans,
managerial CV than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now. But now, even with time passing, 2 leagues with Molde and a relegation with Cardiff, 3 major finals with Borough and 2 promotions, even with time passing, he exceeds that. If they had gone, Bryan Robson gets the United job permanently in 2018 or 2019, I would have been less angry. It's tragic. It's real sad. I just wish Busby could look down with his kind of socialist cap on and go, sometimes football is bigger, and sometimes winning that argument about what club is better with a Liverpool fan or City fan in a bar exceeds a bit of cash and a bit of commercial viability. I mean, you can understand from a fan point of view. We're a disgrace, Robbo.
Look, I can see where the fans are coming from, especially like we're saying over the last 6 weeks. The performances have been really poor from the players, and there's no real excuse, no matter what the manager or the staff were doing on the training pitch. Some of the performances were really, really poor, and the lads have got to have a good look at themselves.
If I give you my all-time United 11, can you correct it where I'm wrong?
Go on.
So, Edwin van der Sar.
Schmeichel.
Why?
Peter was more aggressive.
I'd argue van der Sar was better with his feet, as good a shot stopper, and as much of a communicator as Schmeichel was. Schmeichel's a United great, but van der Sar in between the sticks. I mean, what could you really replace?
Hey,
there?
look, the two of them were very close, but yeah, you've gone van der Sar, I'd go Schmeichel.
Are we agreeing on Irwin?
As a right back,
I go left. Well, who are you putting in? Evra?
see, that's what I mean. Yeah, Evo, you said.
Well, you just want to get Gary Neville out like everyone does, so you're putting Irwin right back
No,
and
Nev
Evra left back.
was a very good player, but I think I've got a better left back than Gary Neville as a right back. That's why I put Den, because I think Den's the best fullback that's played for United.
Could he have been as good at right back as he was at left back?
Yeah, definitely. Den could play anywhere. Yeah, so who's your right back then?
I would have gone Neville, but if I'd do the Ever Irwin thing if we're leaving Neville out. I feel like Neville gets hard done by because he's kind of melty.
If we go on to left back, Tony Dunn.
Patrice Evra though.
Nah, Tony Dunn was a better player.
Evra was so
because of your age. Well, I didn't see much of him, but what I did see of him, and then you talk to people like Dennis Law and Paddy Crowell, Sir Bobby. You talk to them, and Tony Dunn was
so we're going
top.
We're going Dunn and
class.
Irwin, and obviously I'm listening to you out of me. Centre backs, I'm going for again. It's going to seem like it's modern. I'm going Ferdinand Stam.
Say I'm going McGrath Stam.
For United performances, though, I mean Ferdinand has multiple leagues to his name in a European Cup. McGrath won PFA Player of the Year at Villa.
But it's very, very close. I mean,
we're going to have to go Rio just for professionalism.
Yeah, Rio was a top player.
Go Ferdinand Stam.
Okay.
So
are we playing 4-4-2?
This what we'll figure it out as we go through the 11. I'm just going to say, and with respect to you and everyone else, I don't think Paul Scholes can be left out. He can't be left out. Scholes can't be left out. You don't want Scholes in this team, do you? Scholes has to be in the team.
I can't pick myself.
Well, you're going to have to be in the conversation, but was Scholes better than you? He didn't do as much. He wasn't as box to box.
I don't think so, but a few people might say
From
yes.
a technical point of view, though, was he not? You were energetic, box to box, had everything, never gave up, scored goals. But was he not
Scholes,
savant?
He was a class player, but
for me, the question's always been Keane v Robson in that conversation. It's always been Scholes is there, and then is it Keane or Robson? You're saying that you were both better than Scholes.
Let's just get the balance of the team. So we've agreed we're going to go 4-4-2. So who's your right winger?
Georgie Best.
Georgie Best, right winger.
Yeah, or left winger.
So who's your left winger?
Him and Ronaldo can swap.
All right. Oh, there you go then. So that's what I was going to say. Ronaldo is on the right for me. Best is on the left.
Yeah, they can.
So,
but they'll switch throughout the game.
So there's your two wide players. So who you playing the two central ones in your midfield?
For me, it was always either Scholes and Robson or Scholes and Keane. And by the way, Charlton's not in my conversation.
I was going to say, so Bobby doesn't get in your team.
He's not. I know it sounds crazy. He's not though, because I play either Rooney off Law or Cantona off Law, and I swap it depending on what mood I'm in.
There you go. Well, I agree with that because Law and Rooney would be my two forwards.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that one. But mine would be Sir Bobby and Keane.
Really?
Because I need the defensive one.
But does Scholes and Keane not provide that now?
But Bobby would score more goals.
What about Scholes Robson?
Oh yeah, we'd match them. Yeah, me and Scholesy together would match Sir Bobby and Keane. Well, hey, what a team.
You're leaving Eric Cantona out of that?
Yeah, Eric would always get on my bench.
He wouldn't be great off the bench, though. He'd be too moody.
So would Giggsy.
What was it like playing against Diego Maradona? Because you showed up and he scored 2 goals and you overturned an aggregate 2-0 deficit to win 3-0. Did you just not give a shit who he was?
Yeah, the few times I played against Maradona, we got good results. Even the rest of the world when he played for them against the British team.
Gary Lineker says if you stayed fit in either 86 or 90, you would have won one of those World Cups.
If Bryan had stayed fit in 86 and 90, we'd have won one of them.
I think 86 could have been really difficult because, there's only Germany who's ever gone there.
Where were you when Maradona scored the 2 against England?
I was sitting on the bench with me shoulder in a sling, unfortunately.
Did you know it was handball straight away?
Yeah. Yeah, even from the bench.
Did you find it funny at all? No.
No, I didn't find it one little bit funny.
What'd you make of his goal after that, though?
Yeah, the goal after that was unbelievable. And then his goal in the semi-final against Belgium was unbelievable. I mean, I've got to say, for me, the best player ever in the world because of the physical side of it was Pelé, because people could kick lumps off.
Is Messi not the best ever?
Nah, Pelé, for me, best ever. And then Maradona is like probably the best after that.
What about what Messi's done though? Because I understand the kind of old school approach of when you mix everything in, the fact they were getting kicked and all, but his goal record mixed with his ability at the highest level.
Well, you've got another argument there, don't you?
World Cup thing.
Who's the best, Messi or Ronaldo?
I don't even think that's an argument though, do you?
What, you think Messi?
Messi, obviously. I don't think that's fact, isn't it?
Well,
as players, as individuals, Messi scores more goals per game based on his career than Ronaldo, and Ronaldo's known as a great goal scorer, and he does everything else.
There you go. So you've looked up on your facts. I don't know how many they've scored. These are great arguments, and this is like a pub argument, even though the two of us are on coffee at the moment. But that's what's great about football. You'll always get fans with different opinions and chatting about it, and they're really interested in, and they're interested in other people's opinions and everything as well. That's what makes football great.
Who do you think wins the league this year?
Win the league?
Yeah.
Right at the start of the season, a mate of mine who's a big Man City fan, he went, if you had £1,000 and you had to put it on, who would you put it on? And I said Chelsea. And that's not because they're in front at the moment. Just when you looked at the way they were organised, big, strong team, got a good depth of squad. Yeah,
good gaffer, I just which matters.
Yeah, the manager's very good. The way he gets them organised. So I said Chelsea, and what I've seen so far this season, I wouldn't go against them.
What do you make of Wayne Rooney's managerial career?
I think he's done an unbelievable job at Derby because when I was at Bradford, I went into administration, or the club did, just as we got out the bottom 4. And it was a nightmare. Players going on sort of half the wages, loan players having to go back to the clubs that you borrowed them from, and then a couple of players being sold, your best young players being sold. It's a nightmare job. So Wayne has had to get free transfers, people on loan, and he's put them together. And when the players know they're so far adrift, to actually get them back to no points now is a great job that he's doing.
Do you know Wayne Rooney? If you saw him in a Starbucks, would you stop and have a conversation in the queue?
Yeah, me and Wayne got on really well, when he was at the club.
What about Ronaldo?
I'll tell you something about Ronaldo. And this is when Sir Alex was the boss, and he come to the club and everything. The boss always invited me, so any time I didn't have any work on, I'd go in the morning for something to do, watch the lads train and everything. Ronaldo would be the first one, walk over, morning, how are you? Big grin on his face and everything, so polite. He was like that every morning.
Would he know about the Captain Marvel era, though? Would he know what you represented for the club in the 80s and all? Do you reckon he knows the history of Man United?
Yeah, top players, they study the game and all that sort of thing. I can always, Jesus. Well, what's a lad who came from Monaco with a...
Martial?
No. Top centre forward. We only had him on loan. Falco. Right, Falco. First year I went onto the training pitch. I'm standing there and the boss had invited me. And anyway...
Van Gaal?
Yeah.
Did you know Louis?
Yeah, he just said...
Good gaffer, good man.
Yeah, he always said to me, I know what Sir Alex used to do, Brian. You can come watch training whenever it'll be nice to see you. Falco, he came across to me straight away and I went, hi, Bryan Robson. And he went, you don't need to tell me who you are. He says, I know. He says, I've seen you play.
Yeah. And he would do.
So players like that, they do study the game. Most of the top players study the game and they know who everybody is.
We're sitting here on Tuesday, 23rd of November. It's looking like it's going to be Pochettino.
They're all hypothetical.
They are all hypothetical.
When they make...
I don't even know where we're at. So for the listeners who are listening, me and Bryan Robson are sitting in a booth in Manchester, one-on-one. And the last 30 minutes of the show were just deleted due to the negligence of the staff. If I had the name of the building, I'd fucking say it. Absolutely gutted. We were really getting into it there. So
yeah, you might find it. You never know.
How do you deal with disappointment as an athlete? I mean, you're someone who's been under the cosh. I know that you'll only view this as radio, but that being deleted, that second half an hour is the equivalent of someone taking my England cap away from me. Think about it. You literally start this in your bedroom. That's what you do. You put a microphone to a laptop, and then after a certain amount of time, you end up sitting across from Bryan Robson. I talked to him, and half an hour of it is gone. The evidence is wiped. Rodecaster turned off. And you're sitting opposite me. What's your advice?
Advice is what Sir Alex used to say to us. If we got beat at the weekend, we'd come in the next day, assess why we got beat, and he'd go, now we'll go out training. And you can't do anything about that. He says you've got to do what's in front of you, and that's what you've got to do. Don't keep looking back at disappointment. Look forward and make sure you don't get the disappointment again.
What do you think happened with the machine, though?
Your next interview with whoever you're going to interview after me is you've just got to make sure.
But have you ever seen disappointment like that? You've seen a lot of things. You've seen teams go down. So have you ever seen a machine switch off when a guy was talking to a childhood hero?
I can actually see that you're devastated about it, and I've got to say to all your viewers that I'm amazed what the fuck happened with that machine because it did just totally every light on it just went out, and yet we've got the first 32 minutes.
First 32 minutes
we've
are there.
But the second 30 minutes that we're on to has just disappeared. So I am just hoping by the time you get back to your listeners, you will actually find that 30 minutes.
I don't think we will. I don't think we will find them. That's the thing.
And if we don't, we've got to move forward.
Do you dislike Liverpool Football Club?
No, I don't like...
Do you hate Scousers?
I don't dislike No, I'm a Geordie, not a Manc.
Yeah, but there's Reds out there who've adopted you as a Manc, as their captain, as their skipper. They rest easy at the thought of you hating Scousers. Do you hate Scousers?
Look, Liverpool, I don't want them to do well when Man United aren't doing well. I'll always be biased towards Man United. But I've got a lot of ex-Liverpool players who are good friends. And so I've got nothing against those lads. And what I say is, if you're winning things and you're playing well, you deserve it. And because they've worked hard to get where they are, what we need to do is work hard to make sure that they don't surpass us in trophies that we win as two big clubs. And not just Liverpool, City as well. I don't want to see City and Liverpool above Manchester United.
What's the future for Bryan Robson in football? Do you ever intend on managing again?
For me, there's only... Not really. I don't see me full-time as a manager and that. I've always said international football wouldn't put me off.
You can't do Thailand again, though.
No.
What was that
I
about?
wouldn't go that. Oh, it was brilliant.
But how'd you end up getting the Thai job? Who offered you that?
Well, it was Peter Reid really got me the job, because Peter was Thai manager, and what happened is Peter got an offer from Stoke City, who were in the Premiership at that time. Peter wanted to come back. He phoned me up and he went, Robbo, he says, I really enjoy the job. The people who are in charge are good to work with. He says...
But the players must be shocking.
No, they're not shocking.
What's a Thai goalkeeper like?
I'll tell you what, the Thai goalkeeper was probably one of the best goalkeepers in Southeast Asia. But no, they were very sort of respectful and would try to do everything you implemented on a training pitch. They would try to do and then take it into the game. So they listen that way. Where the sort of lack is strength-wise. They'll not do weights and all that sort of thing to try and build themselves
They
up.
refuse to do them, or
the diets. Well, they go back to the club, and you give them a program to make them stronger, and they'll not do that program. Plus, as well, trying to get them to change the eating habits. No, they'll not do that.
When you're a gaffer in Thailand, you just show up to the session and go for a beer after. Do you care? Do you go to bed at night going, "How can we get better"? Do you care about Thailand as much as you do Borough? As a gaffer, or do you just go, what will be, will be?
Well, there's more intensity.
Thailand,
there's more intensity, sort of like when you're like at Borough. But no, I mean, I got them. I think they were about 140th in the world, and I got them into the 90s, and the Thais loved that. And I'd like to think that if I hadn't got cancer in the throat, I would have stayed there longer.
What happened with the cancer in the throat?
Look, I just thought I had a tickly cough, but it sort of, I was struggling to swallow after a week. Went across to the hospital, which was just over the road from where we lived, and went in to see a specialist, and he looked at me, and he was straight up. He just said, sorry, Mr. Robson. He says, well, that looks like a cancerous tumour to me. Went for the scan. Yeah, but that was on the Monday, and on the Thursday he took the tumour out, and then I had the radiotherapy treatment.
And nothing ever came back?
No, I had 4 weeks of radiotherapy, and thankfully it's been really good.
10 years?
Yeah, 11 years since I... Yeah.
So it's done, the kind of remission aspect and all the official. Did you smoke?
No.
How'd you get throat cancer now?
I know that that's what the doctor said straight away. He says, are you a smoker? And no, I've never smoked.
Even when you were out in the session with the boys now back in the day, you never pick up a fag?
No, never.
Bryan Robson, I appreciate you obviously coming on the Michael Anthony show. It's an honour to talk to a footballing legend like yourself. I also appreciate you doing the additional 10 minutes due to the fact that we were so unprofessional that half of the fucking episode has been deleted. It's been a pleasure for me, for the listeners, and you're a true footballing icon. Bryan Robson, thank you very much. MA Show.
Thank you.
It's been now many years more. You still don't know my tears of joy. No no need to go, just take it slow.
Podcast or something like that.
And have you heard the Michael Anthony show? A nice show.
Makes me feel just fine.
What's it help to see?
Makes me see the light.
What about those tears?
Tears leave my eyes.
How's it make you feel?
Makes me feel alright.
Old Trafford acknowledges the return of an authentic hero. Bryan Robson's first visit as a manager draws applause from all corners of the ground that he graced for 13 years. 3 FA Cups, 2 Championships, a European trophy, and 77 of his 90 England caps were won while he wore the red shirt here.
It was a proper tribute to a really great player. He appreciated it, actually.